Okay. Let's get started. Just preparing everything. I hope everyone's doing well, doing fine. Let me just make sure the stream is picking up. And then we can get started. All right. Okay, where do I switch to? Chat. Switch over to that one. And last but not least. All right, cool. Done that. So if you have any questions, please just chuck them into the comments. I'll do my best to answer them if I see them. That's the thing. Sometimes I kind of miss them. So I do apologize for that. All right. Now, the last thing I need to do before we get into things is record, but I need to make sure I always select the right one. All right. I am going to try something different. I am going to record that camera as well. All right, cool. Let's see how big the file ends up being. I'm going to run out of memory. Who knows? Okay. So we have everything here ready to go. Okay. All right. And why did I close that? Oh, that's why. Okay, cool. All right. Where do we go? We've got that, got that. And now what I can do is start recording there and start recording locally. Okay. All right. Well, let's get going. Switch things over and we are good to go. All right. Cool. So let's get going. Hello and welcome. Today we are going to look at a few one specifically, advanced site building technique, and that is around managing content types and fields. Now, I kind of struggled coming up with a name for this video because this is a very niche issue, and it's something that I've recently come across, especially when you're dealing with complex content models, fields, and content types. And during the site building process, how do you clone them? How do you not spend too much time clicking around Drupal? Because one thing is common. You can spend a lot of time just clicking Drupal, clicking here, making these changes. And I feel like it's not often discussed how you can just streamline your site building process because the techniques are very different. It really depends on the type of website you are building. So I thought for tonight's video, I just want to go through a few scenarios that I've experienced in the past where we've had to kind of clone our content types, especially large content types, and then build off from those content types and just show you a few modules we can use to build things out, just so they can help people just use Drupal in a better way. Because there's nothing more annoying, no, in my opinion, when you're going through the process, building out a Drupal site, and then you have to spend the next 2 days building out content models and things like that, um, when you can just clone it and do things that way. So I thought, let's go through a few modules and a few techniques. So today we're going to be covering 3 modules. Well, actually 3 modules and a Drush command. So the first module will be entity clone. Now this module, as the name suggests, allows you to clone an entity. So this can be a content entity as well as a config entity. Now, what is the difference? Well, good question. So essentially, anything that's stored in the database is a content entity. So things like a page, anything with node/123, a taxonomy term, and all that stuff is a content entity. A config entity is stuff that's stored in a YAML file. So things like content types, vocabularies, all of those things are essentially config. Okay. Now, entity clone allows you to clone content and config. Now, the support and compatibility, also you want to make sure that it's compatible with certain parts of the system, varies. So when it comes to entities, so content entities, it's pretty compatible, but then it does have partial support for things like content types and things like that. Then we're going to take a look at entity type clone, because entity type clone focuses more on the config entities. And so I'm going to be using this to clone paragraphs, because I've noticed that, yeah, there are some funny nuances when it comes to using particular modules. And then we're going to take a look at field tools. Now, this module is a very interesting module because it allows you to just select a whole bunch of fields on one content type and say, clone it and use it on another content type. So it's very useful when you have a pre-existing site and you already have content in it and somebody says, I want these 10 fields from this one content type in this content type. And you can just easily press a button and copy it across without having to manually do it. Of course, you can do this all manually if you want, but our job here is to do it as simple as possible. And then we're going to take a look at a Drush command, which I've used in the past, and that is to just bulk create fields. So this Drush command is called Drush field create, and it's a great way to just bulk create fields essentially. And you can follow this like a similar command like this, where you don't have an interactive prompt. So if you do type in field create, it will take you through like prompts where you need to answer it. And this can be used to like bulk create content. Bulk create fields. All right, we've got our first comment on YouTube. Please, sir, keep making videos. Start a new job, and it helps a lot. Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. I do appreciate it. Thanks for watching. So let's jump over to our Drupal site. And what I've got here is just a stock standard Drupal site. And I've just gone ahead and created a content type, a paragraph, just configured a few things. So let me just quickly go through it. So what we're going to do here is I want to come along and clone this article content type. And this article content type has a components field, which is custom, and also it's got a sidebar view mode. So what we're going to do is we're going to use entity clone for this. And we're going to clone it, and we're going to call the new content type news. But you can call it whatever you want. I'm just going to call it news. Now, we could go ahead and just create this from scratch. Of course, we could do that. But let's try and make it as simple as possible. So what we're going to do is go into extend and then search for entity clone and install it. So give that a moment to go ahead and install. And if you go to configuration and click on entity clone settings, here you can see a bunch of settings specifically for this module. So as I mentioned, entity clone can be used to clone config entities as well as content entities. So this is a great module just for cloning basic pages and things like that. So great for editors if they want the ability to clone content. When you do clone content, it does add in things like cloned to the title. You can also specify how the clone form is going to work. And then you have clonable entities here, where you can select exactly which entities can be cloned. So this gives you a bit more flexibility in using the module. So if I come along in here and hopefully you can see that in the video. Yeah, you can. And I click on this button here on the right hand side, we have this clone option. We can go ahead here and simply clone this page. And he goes ahead and clones it. But what we want to do is clone the content type. So let's go to structure, content types. And if we click on down arrow and clone, and I do think if you click on any of these pages, then click on clone up the top here. And we'll call this one news. So we'll call this one news. Yeah, we will. And then click on clone. It's going to go ahead and clone the node type or content type. So if we go to structure, content types, you'll see that we do have this new one called news. And then if we go into manage fields, all of the fields have been reused. Now, the way Drupal handles fields is that you do have a base field and then you can share the field instance between different bundles. So that's different content types. But then if you click on manage display, you can see we have all of our view modes and our custom sidebar view mode. So that is a very, very quick overview of entity clone. As I mentioned, it's great for cloning content types. Now, one issue that I've had with this module is that it doesn't really clone paragraphs that well, especially paragraph types. It'll allow you to clone it, but then it won't copy the fields across. And so that's why we're going to take a look at another module. But the benefit of using this module is that you can use it to clone the actual content entities as well as content types. So I've used it in the past many times to clone large content types. They have like 20 odd fields, and often you might create a base content type that has a standard set of fields like a header, footer, components region, and you want that across all content types. So what you do is you create that single base content type and then you just clone it and then you customize it from there. Now let's take a look at entity type clone. As I mentioned earlier, this module is similar to entity clone, but it focuses more on config entities, not content entities. And if you do want to clone paragraph types, then I recommend that you use this module because this module actually integrates nicely with paragraphs and it copies over the fields, whereas entity clone will clone the paragraph type, but it won't clone the fields. That's been my experience. Maybe when you're watching this, that bug is fixed, but as of this recording, entity clone, which is this module, doesn't clone the fields, whereas entity type clone does. So let's go back into our Drupal site. And what I'm going to do first of all is uninstall entity clone just to make sure there's no conflicts. We don't want there to be conflicts. And then I'll search for entity type clone. Let that install. And if we go into structure and then paragraph types, we do have this call to action paragraph. And if we take a look at it, it's pretty basic. I think I've got a copy of it here somewhere. Yeah, I do. Call to action. And it's a very basic paragraph type. What we can do is click on this clone call to action. Then make sure you select paragraph and also the type of, which is the item you want to clone. And then the new bundle is going to be called, let's call this one, call to action with the number 2. And then click on clone. And it's gone ahead and clone 2 fields. Then if we go to structure, paragraph types, you can see our new cloned paragraph type called call to action. And most importantly, it has the standard set of fields because Drupal allows you to group fields, reuse fields. And we do have these custom view modes, which I've put in just to kind of illustrate it. Because the thing is though, you want to make sure, you want to test everything out when you clone it, because a bundle, an entity bundle, or any type of like entity type does have a lot of components to it when you look at the config that gets generated. So you want to make sure everything has been exported out correctly. So if you are looking to clone your paragraph types, then I'd highly recommend entity type clone. So at this point, we've looked at entity clone for cloning content types and entity type clone for paragraphs. Now I want to show you how to manage your fields at a field level. Because in the beginning, when you're building out a Drupal site, yes, you can go ahead and clone your content types. But then let's say you've built a Drupal site and then 6 months down the track, they want to copy over a bunch of fields from one content type over to another. How do you do that? And also, in the meantime, content has been created. So you can't just start fresh. You can't just delete these things and chuck these things around. You need to then manually create those fields, or you could use field tools. And this is the next module I want to show you. Now, this module is an alpha, so just be aware of that. You want to probably, you only want to set this up locally. So I do recommend that you just set it up locally, run it, install it, do whatever you have to do, and then uninstall it. Don't install it on production. You don't want to do that because it's not covered by the security advisory, and also it is an alpha. Mind you, it's alpha 13. That's a good number of releases. But you can see here that it's got just under 5,000 installs. All right, so let's go ahead and install it. All right, so we'll go along here. And I'll type in field tools. And then we go into structure. And before we have a look and do things. Let me show you under reports. So if you come under reports and then click on list, you will see the standard field list where you can see all of your available fields. But then you do get extra pages where you can filter by entity host, so host entity and bundle. So you can say, show me all fields on the article content type. And this gives you a nicer overview of all the fields. And then you can see that, yep, this body field is used on article, news, and page. And that's what I mentioned earlier, that you do have a base field. So you do have a config for the field, and then you can have a field instance of that field on article, news, and page. Then you can easily go and jump to that section and modify. So this is a great way of just managing your fields. Oh, I did not even notice that. You can, if you click on this, it actually filters by the type. That is useful. So if we go link, it will show link. Oh, cool. What about, oh no, it's only text with summary is the one that's used multiple times. All right. That's good to know. String, which is title, you can see that it's used once. Then you have references. So this one is what references what. We'll come along in here, see if this works. These are, yeah. Remember, this module is an alpha. It's a bit buggy. It is a bit buggy. But if we come along in here, where is it? Let's go back here, references. Can I filter? Okay. Well, no, can't really filter that way. But then I can come along in here and is it going to filter that? No, it's not. Okay, that's fine. And then if we scroll up, we do have graph, but this doesn't work, or yeah. I tried to install this graph API, it just didn't quite work. And then you have used in views. I do believe this is a core page. So it's not offered by Field Tools, but it's there. All right, let's now go ahead and create a content type. So we're going to create a content type from scratch, do it the old-fashioned way. And so if we click on add content type, let's call this one blog. And we will get a body. All right, cool. Now, what we need to do is so here we have these tools. And here we can clone a few things. But the way this works is that if you want to clone fields from a content type, you need to go to that content type first and then clone it from there. So in this example, we want to clone fields from the article content type. So to do that, we'll click on content types and then go to clone fields, which is tools. Then we'll come along here and select components, image, and tags, which is on the article content type. And then if we scroll down, don't just click on clone fields because nothing's going to happen. Then you want to select blog under bundles to clone the fields to. Then click on clone fields. And it's going to go ahead and clone them. Then if we go to content types and then click on manage fields on blogs, on the blog content type, you can see body, which came in by default, but then we have components, image, and tags. And these were simply cloned by pressing 2 buttons. Now, of course, for 3 fields, you can go ahead there and configure things. But just imagine you want to clone 10 different fields and they all have descriptions in there. They all have required checkboxes and things like that. This just makes it very easy to clone fields around. The other thing you can do is clone a display. So let's imagine we want to clone this sidebar. Now, I've worked on Drupal sites that have content types with 10 to 15 different view modes. And so using this module, it was very easy to clone those view modes to other content types. So here, let's just imagine, we have 10 odd um, display modes, or no, sorry, view modes. And we can come along here, select it, then select the bundle that we want to clone it to, and click on clone display. And then if we come along in here to blog and click on manage display, we should see sidebar. Now, one thing to be aware of is that right now, being able to clone the sidebar is pretty simple because we're not using Layout Builder. If you take a look here and go to the issue queue, I do believe there is an issue. Here you go, number one, right here. Support Layout Builder. So you will have to patch this yourself if you want to get Layout Builder support. Just be aware of that. The last time I did use it, Layout Builder support, yeah, I did have to patch it myself. And I think I also had to tweak a few extra things. I'm just replying to a comment in YouTube. Yes. Clone fields, pretty slick. Yes. The module is pretty good when it comes to just cloning fields. So if you do want Layout Builder support, then you will have to patch the module yourself, and you can patch it right here. And you can see that it's been around for a while, this actual this patch, but it's very useful. It's absolutely, it has saved me many hours when it comes to copying view modes as well as fields, especially when you have large websites with a lot of content types and fields, and also view modes as well. Now, the final bit of functionality we're going to take a look at today is a Drush command. Now, if you download Drush, and you should have it on your site. So if you download Drush, which you can by just running Composer, what is it? Composer require. I can spell that correctly. Drush. You run that. It's going to go ahead and download Drush. Now, I've already downloaded it. Nothing's going to happen. And then if I go into bin, Drush, and I grep and I type in fields, you will see that we do have a few options when it comes to managing fields. And this allows you to just manage them all, just manage them through Drush. We can run FBI. Oh, that's right. I didn't even think of that. FBI. So field. So this lists out all the base fields. And you can see all of your base fields that way, which is pretty cool. Now, the one that I'm interested in, so let's just clear this, is, I believe it's create. So let's go ahead now and let's create a field on the blog content type. So all you need to do is type in Drush and then field : create. And then you're going to be prompted. Select content and then your bundle. So we'll select blog, and the label will be called, let's call this one introduction. And it kind of figures out the field name. So this is the machine name, and he puts the word blog in front, which is good. Nice naming convention. Good job. And then we'll put in a description used for the intro. Then we can select a field type. So in our case, it'll be, let's select text plain long, and the widget, well, we've only got one option, and let's not make it required. Let's keep it limited to one value, and we're done. And it's gone ahead and created it for us, okay? Now, if we jump over to our site, let's go to blog, add content, blog, we should see introduction right here. There you go, okay? Now, we were able to create this using just Drush. So you can think of ways of, you could essentially automate it, okay? Now, of course, entering in the prompt is a manual process, but what you can do is you can pass in these parameters and this will do it the non-interactive way. So you don't have to enter in the prompts. And what you could do is you could essentially get ChatGPT. I'm going to chuck in AI because I need to talk about AI no matter what. You could get ChatGPT to actually generate these for you. So if you define your content model in a spreadsheet or something, and you know the field name, the label, the field type, and all of these things, you could actually write a bit of custom code to generate this from a CSV file. It's not that hard. So now what I want to do is let's go ahead and add in another field, and I'm going to copy over a a command, which I've prepared earlier. So we first have Drush, then field create, then we have the actual entity type, which is node, which is content, then the bundle, which is blog. Then we define the field name, which will be the actual machine name. So remember that, the machine name for the field. So that is field blog summary. So if we compare this, let's actually compare it because you need to kind of visualize it to see where that works and how that works. If we go content type, blog, create new, and we click on, say, plain text, and I type in, so what is this going to be? Okay, summary. So if I type in summary, the field name will be this summary, even though it's called machine name here. So just imagine this is called, blog like that. So this machine readable name is field name. The field label right here is the actual label, okay? Summary is the summary. The description is, of course, the description, which is on the field instance. And this is where things can get a little tricky, trying to figure out these field type, the field type and the field widget. Now, what does this refer to? Well, this refers to the actual plugin name of the field type and the field widget, okay? Now, there are a few ways you can figure this out. So what you can do is you can come along in here, and if you inspect, if you don't want to look at code, you can come along in here, inspect it, and you should see, where is the value? Here, right here. Let me zoom that in a little bit more so you can see it. You will see this little value right here, string equals string. If we inspect this one, the value is string long. Okay. Now, if you're feeling adventurous and you want to search for it in code, I do believe if you find in folder, where is the not formatter, long base formatter. So this will be field type. Here we go. So it refers to these IDs right here. So under plugin, field type, and you just have to look at these. So you can see that string long is this plugin, and then the widget is actually here. So you do have the default widget. Now to get the proper name for the widget, all right, there's a few ways. You can come along in here and just grab it. So if we go string, it'll be string text area, but also you need to make sure that your field type supports that widget. So this is where you do need to understand and know your way around the Drupal API just to get a good understanding of things. So let's go back to here. So the tricky part will be figuring out exactly what these are. And then we have this is required, which is set to 1. So yes, it's required. And then you have the cardinality. So that's if it's unlimited or if it's limited to 1. Now, if it is set to 1, that means it's going to be limited to 1. If it's set to 2, you're going to limit it to 2. So let's just leave all that as it is and hit enter. And it's going to go ahead and create it for us. So let me close this. And if we come back to blog, manage fields, we should see, what did we create? The summary? Yeah. We created the block summary. You can see it right here. And as I mentioned, if you want to figure out the widget, you need another way of doing it is to come to the manage form display, scroll down, and if we inspect and view the select, we should see here the value, which is string underscore text field. I do believe we selected string underscore text field. Yes, we did. So you can see there, we selected that specific one. So that's another way of actually figuring out the widget's name. And that's an easy way of just, yeah, figuring it out. So let's just quickly summarize what we covered tonight. So we looked at entity clone, which is used for cloning content as well as config entities. So we used it to clone content types, and it's been my go-to module when it comes to cloning content types. It's the best one. Then we looked at entity type clone. Now this one's great for cloning paragraph types, but also take note of this. It can be used to clone roles as well. So that's another thing where you want to be able to clone things, because often you might create multiple roles and you want them to be similar, and there's nothing more annoying than dealing with roles and permissions. It's a very tedious process. Then we looked at field tools. Now, this is a great module for just managing your fields, cloning your fields, your base fields, and also cloning your view modes as well. And then we finish things off by taking a look at one of my favorite Drush commands when it comes to creating fields, and that is called field create, where you can easily automate the process, essentially, of creating fields. So that is it from me. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn more about Drupal and other CMSs, head over to webwash.net. Also, check out our other videos, because we've been doing I've been doing a live stream weekly, other than when I had 6 weeks off during the summer. But this whole year, I'll be, I've been doing a live stream since the beginning of the year, and we do have a whole bunch of Drupal live streams. So go to the YouTube channel, go under live, and you will see other live streams. I am in the process of cutting up these videos into shorter ones and then posting them when I've got time. But if you have any questions, please leave a comment, and also let me know what other topics you want covered, because I'm always on the lookout, and I'm always looking for fresh ideas. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time. Okay, that was a nice little short one. Hope everyone enjoyed it. All right, how is everyone going? I hope they all enjoyed it. Embed settings. Oh, it's interesting. Restream actually has the ability to embed these things. So if you have any questions, please chuck them in before I finish up. I always love hanging around here, always having little chit chats. I'm going to try something new. Well, no, thank you. No, thank you for coming. Now, I was planning, like there is a great module now, like with this AI agent stuff that can be used to do Drupal site building. And I was thinking of covering it in this live stream, but I wanted to dedicate a whole live stream to the AI agent, and I didn't quite get it working. So maybe in the future, I will dedicate a full a full stream just for that. So if there are any other things, oh no, there's also recipes. I want to have a look at recipes because I'm really keen to have a play with that stuff and see how that goes. But I do hope you all enjoyed this one. Yeah, these Drush commands are pretty cool. I must admit, I do enjoy it. They do work pretty well. And I've always wanted to have the ability to just define a content model and just chuck it in. No, define a content model in Excel or Google Sheets and then just chuck it in and yeah, just chuck it in and just press a button and then Drupal does it all for you. Because I feel like sometimes it's just such a pain to deal with, what is it? Drupal's UI when you're clicking through a lot of things and just creating fields and all that type of stuff. But then now you could do that. You could essentially do that with AI to a certain extent. Oh, this is pretty cool. Yeah, I'm just having to play with this stuff. Oh, it's a bit weird. Of embedding the actual stream on the WebWash site. And now it kind of fails. Oh no. Oh, interesting. Switching different ones. Yeah, I'm thinking of actually putting this in. Anyway. Anyway. All right. Well, thank you all very much for joining. Oh, yeah, here we go. All right, cloning contents, short beats, copying, and tell me about it. Tell me about it. In my old age, I've had to get one of these. Wait, one of these mouses, you know, these actual mouses, because seriously, my wrists get a bit sore. And I actually switch between, this, so these vertical ones, so you can see it's like that. And well, let me switch over to here. Yeah. So these ones, does it zoom in? Yeah, switching over to these ones and a trackpad. And I actually have, so I'm right-handed, so I use this on the right hand, this with a trackpad, and sometimes I've got a trackpad here as well. So, I just muck around with them all. So, yeah. Yeah, check this out. These are actual vertical. Let me try not to focus. Yeah, these are actual like so you hold the mouse like that instead of like that. So sometimes because when you think about it, your hands, I don't know, this way naturally. But one thing I've realized is that it's about mixing it up. So I've actually got three different mices, whatever you want to call it. Um, where I switch between a trackpad, and I've even gone. I was even thinking of getting an configurable mouse where we can configure it for left-handed and right-handed people. So if you're left-handed and right-handed, and maybe I'll just start using my left hand because who knows, maybe all the cartilage from my wrists are gone, and it's like, all right, you know what, just use it for my on my I'll just start utilizing the cartilage now for the next 40 years in my left hand. Anyway, all right. Well, thank you very much for joining. I mean, I got a few comments here. I thought this was going to be a boring topic, but no, everyone enjoyed it. Anyway, well, I hope you enjoyed it. All right, cool. All right, well, I'll catch you all later, and I'll catch you all next week. Anyway, take care.